The young man lay back in the grass beside the road, breathing slowly, a satisfied smile lingering on his face. A few paces away, the woman adjusted the folds in her sari in the pale moonlight. Only moments before, they had been tangled together in the tall grass. She was beautiful, more beautiful than anyone he had known. Her long dark hair was braided into a thick plait that reached the middle of her back. When she turned and began walking down the narrow dirt path, he watched her with quiet admiration, pleased with his luck at meeting such a beautiful woman alone on the road that night. As she walked away, the braid of her hair swung gently behind her, back and forth, back and forth. The young man frowned. The night was perfectly still. The grass and the trees around them did not move, yet the plait swayed in a slow, steady rhythm, almost as if it had a will of its own. Uneasy, he pushed himself to his feet and stepped onto the dusty road, his eyes drifting down to the footprints she had left behind. At first, he didn't understand what he was seeing. The prints were clear in the dirt, each step neatly pressed into the ground, but something about them was wrong. He stared for a long moment before the truth settled cold in his stomach. The toes pointed towards him. For a moment, his mind refused to accept it. Slowly, painfully, the truth settled over him like a weight. Her feet. They were backwards. Ahead, the woman had stopped walking. Very slowly, she turned her head. The face that looked back was no longer beautiful. The skin had darkened and tightened, stretching over sharp bones. Her eyes burned with a dull, hungry light, and her smile had become something wide and terrible. His lips trembled, his breath rattled in his chest. He lifted his hands and recoiled in horror. The skin there was no longer smooth and strong. It had withered and wrinkled, the veins standing out like twisted roots beneath parchment flesh. The woman watched him calmly. She had known what he was long before he spoke to her on the road. The cruel words he gave to the young village girls, the laughter he shared with other men at their expense, the careless arrogance with which he treated every woman he met. Men like him had always believed beauty existed for their pleasure alone. They never imagined beauty might be watching. The Dayan smiled softly, and as the young man collapsed in the dust of the road, his stolen years drifting away into the night, the plait of her hair swung once more behind her, back and forth, though the air around her remained perfectly still. This video contains descriptions of real-world violence against women and children. Viewer discretion is advised. These videos are designed to bridge the gap between phasmophobia and real-life lore. Before we get into this, a quick disclaimer. I'm not a folklore expert, and I don't pretend to be. This video in particular took a couple of weeks worth of research led by curiosity and intrigue. I've only scratched the surface, and if you know more about the topics discussed here, please feel free to add into the conversation. I'm also not a linguist, so if my pronunciations sound a little bit off, I apologise. I will do my best. One of the 3 newest ghosts to be added into Phasmophobia, the Dayan will always be a female ghost. The Dayan's special abilities are based on movement. Before the hunt, a ghost will become more aggressive if you're moving in the ghost room. And during a hunt, the ghost will speed up as the player moves. And slow down as the player stands still. The player's journal describes the Dayan as born from the soul of someone who suffered immense cruelty in life. This links to the Dayan's origins, Desi folklore, which covers areas now defined as India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Before going further, it's worth mentioning that this video focused specifically on the Dayan, but the word itself can be often used more broadly. The legend around the Dayan can sometimes overlap or be based interchangeably with other terms for female spirits, or witches in regional folklore, such as the Churel or the Chadale. While these figures have their own distinct stories and traits, the boundaries between them often blur in oral tradition. The same supernatural woman may be described differently depending on the region or the storyteller. The word Dayan is used across parts of northern India to describe a witch, but the term likely traces its roots much further back into Sanskrit literature. Many scholars believe the word developed from Dakini, a supernatural female figure mentioned in Hindu and Buddhist texts. In some medieval traditions, Dakinis were described as fierce supernatural beings connected with night rituals, cremation grounds, and even the drinking of blood. They were often linked to the powerful goddess Kali and were believed to move between the human world and the supernatural. Over time, as folklore evolved and regional stories changed, these supernatural women gradually became associated with darker ideas, curses, revenge, and the draining of life force. In many villages in northern India, the word Dayan eventually came to mean a dangerous witch-like figure blamed for all sorts of unexplained misfortune. In many stories, the Dayan can hide her true form, appearing beautiful at first, until the illusion begins to slip. At first, the Dayan appears beautiful. Folklore often describes her as a striking young woman with long black hair, sometimes braided into a thick plait that falls down her back, which she can control like a limb. She may appear alone on a road, at the edge of a forest, or near a village well after dark. In these moments, she seems vulnerable, even inviting, and many legends describe her deliberately using this beauty to lure men closer. In much of Indian folklore, a Dayan is not born a monster, she is created. Many tales describe her as a woman who suffered terrible injustice in her life: betrayal, abuse, murder, or death during childbirth. In death, her anger and grief twist into something supernatural, twisting her into a spirit that returns to the living world. The beautiful woman becomes something more grotesque, and one detail appears over and over in these legends: the feet. They are said to face backwards, leaving footprints that point in the wrong direction along the road. In folklore, this detail is more than just a physical trait. It marks the moment when someone realizes they are not dealing with a human being at all. Many stories describe what the Dayan does once she has chosen a victim. Rather than killing indiscriminately, she is said to drain the life force of the men she targets, sometimes even drinking their blood. Victims can grow weaker over time, their youth and strength fading unnaturally fast. In some tales, she focuses on the men of a single household, starting with the youngest and leaving behind a family slowly destroyed by illness, fear, and unexplained death. Stories like these appear in several collections of Indian folklore, including accounts recorded in the 19th century by British civil servant William Crook, who documented rural beliefs about witches and spirits in northern India. In these accounts, the Dayan is blamed not only for draining the vitality of an entire house, but also for spreading misfortune throughout villages. This parallels with the ongoing persecution of women accused of witchcraft in Indian society, even today. While the Dayan exists in folklore, belief in witches has very real consequences in parts of India. Women, especially in rural areas, can be accused for reasons completely beyond their control. These accusations are not harmless. Reports from Times of India and Action Aid India document women facing beatings, lynching, social ostracism, burnings, and even death. Superstition leaves them vulnerable. In folklore, the Dayan drains a man's life force. In reality, superstition can drain women of their safety, dignity, and freedom. According to Sabring India, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the virus was sometimes called the Corona Dayan, a sexist label criticized for reinforcing harmful stereotypes. Such language can fuel harassment. Mangari Devi, a 62-year-old woman, was hacked to death by two men with an axe on the 25th of February 2026. She was on her way to attend a wedding. The two accused dumped the body in the forest and then openly admitted to murder, saying their mother and brother had fallen ill due to the black magic of the elderly woman. These cases, while tragic, do not reflect the majority of northern India culture. These acts are region-specific and widely condemned. The Indian government and various states have laws specifically criminalizing witch hunting. Activists and organizations are actively working to eliminate these practices. Not all modern depictions of the Dayan are evil. Some stories, including those in Bollywood, reimagine her as the victim, showing a more nuanced side of the folklore. The 2020 film, Womble, offers a powerful modern interpretation of the ghost. The film never actually uses the word Dayan, instead of referring to the spirit as a churel. But it retains one of the most famous features from the folklore, her backwards-facing feet. It's a striking reinterpretation of the legend, blending horror and social commentary, and personally, it's one of the most impressive films I've watched recently, and something you should definitely check out as well, so I won't spoil too much of the story here. A comic book from 1987 called Dayan Rani also features the legend. From what I could find out, the story centers on a family whose wicked deeds are punished by a powerful Dayan. Unfortunately, the comic was never translated into English, so I wasn't able to read it myself. The 2013 film, Ek Thi Dayan, also draws on the legend. The story follows a magician whose childhood encounter with the Dayan continues to haunt him into childhood. The film focuses more on the theme of magic and illusion than folklore itself, but it still includes one subtle reference to the traditional legend. A brief moment where a woman walks across the sand and the footprints are facing the wrong way. So how does all this connect back to Phasmophobia? In the game, the Dayan behaves in a very specific way. When you stand still, the Dayan slows down. When you move, the Dayan speeds up and becomes more aggressive. At first, this might seem like a strange mechanic, but it actually fits surprisingly well with the folklore. In many legends, the Dayan is not a creature that simply attacks. She lures and deceives and waits for her victims to make the wrong move. The danger begins when someone allows themselves to be drawn in. The game turns that idea into a gameplay mechanic. Standing still gives you a moment of safety, But the moment you panic and run, the hunt begins. It's a small detail, but it captures something important about the legend. The Dayan in Folklore doesn't rely on brute force. She waits for you to make a mistake first. So if there's a ghost in Phasmophobia that you would like me to cover next, why don't you let me know in the comments down below. As of recording this, I currently don't have any plans or research for any of the other ghosts, but I have really enjoyed making these last two videos, just because I've been getting into parts of folklore that I never thought I would get into, and I've learnt a lot. But for now, I'm going to sign off. So I will see you guys on the flip side. Until next time, later nerds.